Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to speak about some very basic facts and a little bit of a how-to guide about cooking oils for new novice cooks that really are just getting into cooking and want to learn more about how to properly use cooking oils and which ones to get and for what purpose. Let's get right into it with the simplest, easiest way to use cooking oil if you're just starting out, and that is using a simple non-stick spray type of cooking oil that you can find in a lot of grocery stores, department stores. You could even find it online. And by the way, I'm going to include a link to my Amazon affiliate link that is going to have all of the products that I'm going to talk about here today in the video description in case you want to research it or buy it through there. It helps me out at no additional cost to you. The reason I think this style of cooking, and that is using the non-stick style of cooking, is awesome and very easy to do. It's cheap to get into, it's easy to buy. Just buy any non-stick. The one that I buy is kind of like an all-purpose one. I like it because, again, it doesn't really have a problem when put under high heat, which if you're just starting out cooking, it's important to know that, because if you cook with high heat, some oils, especially some cooking spray oils, will break down, lose their ability to lubricate, and your food is going to stick. Or worse yet, you could have a problem where your oil could basically burn and go bad, and it's going to make the food taste bad, and it could even be unhealthy for you, especially if you consume oil that has been burnt. So to avoid that, I just buy this all-purpose one that I know is pretty good for moderate to high heat, and I don't have any problems like that. Another good thing about this particular type of cooking spray, or this style of cooking spray, is that it's cheap to buy, and you could find it in a lot of places. They do have different brands and different different versions of this, and just read the label. Make sure that it's good for moderate to high heat, or that it has some information on the label that indicates that it's good and has been tested under a variety of heating conditions. Again, that's very important. You want your oil to remain stable even under medium to high heat. Also, you want your oil not to taste bad. Even if you cook the right way and you don't use too much heat, and the oil is a good quality oil, relatively speaking, you still could have a problem if your oil tastes bad out of the get-go. Some oils, it's just personal preference, don't taste good. They have like a little bit of a funky flavor to them. I find that this one here, and this is just my personal opinion, that based on my taste buds, it's kind of like a neutral flavor, and I think it goes well with a variety of foods, unlike some other types of oils that I have tried that are a little bit too fancy and have a weird taste, especially when you pair it with certain type of foods. The other thing about these cooking sprays, guys, is that they're very easy to utilize. All you do is spray onto a non-stick pan, and voila, you're cooking. The spray amount is basically 1 second. About 1 second to 2 seconds of spray, evenly coating the pan surface, is good enough to cook without the food sticking. Now, important, again, you have to use a non-stick pan when you're using these non-stick sprays. They don't work very well when you use regular steel pans, because the regular steel pans are designed to use with those liquid oils, or you're going to have to just use this and use a lot of it, which doesn't make any sense. You'll have to empty out a huge portion of the can to equal the amount of oil that you would use with the liquid oil. So this is much better because it works better with the non-stick pans, which are also cheap to buy and cheap to find, and also they don't require as much amount of oil because you don't need that much, because you're just coating it, and by virtue of the fact that you're spraying it, it's more evenly applied to the surface of the pan. Plus, it's a non-stick pan, so you're getting the best of both worlds. Very easy, convenient, and healthy because you're not using that much. And again, I'll leave a link in my video description down below, so if you want to buy this particular one or others like this. If you guys want to do a different type of oil, you can use something that is a more of a solid based oil, that turns into a liquid, like maybe one of these coconut oils. This is if you want to get a little fancy. And these coconut oils, guys, are great because they're very healthy for you. If you look online, you're going to read up on a variety of different properties that these coconut oils have that are very healthy for you. I don't know how true some of these claims are, that they burn fat or this or that, and they cure certain ailments. I'm not going to tell you that they do that, but I can tell you that they're pretty healthy, even though they're high in saturated fat. You don't use that much. Just be careful with the amount that you use, but you're still going to use more of this than the spray oil. But if you just want to experiment and you want to get a little fancy, this is something else that you could try using. But the reason I bought this and the reason I have used this in the past is actually not just for cooking. You can actually use these coconut oils for applying on the skin to moisturize. So that's a dual use purpose of this oil. You can cook with it, but you can also apply it on the skin to moisturize. Regarding cooking with oils, just in general, guys, make sure that you don't use too high of a heat temperature. That's important. Don't jack up the heat. When you're new to cooking, I know that it's very tempting to want to cook faster and you want to make that heat, pretty high, jack it up so that you cook faster, but don't fall into that trap. If you want to cook things and have them turn out good, tasting good and be healthy and not burn the oil, you got to cook slow. So don't crank up the heat. Give it moderate heat at the most and just be patient. Now, if you want to cook faster because you're limited on time, then the way you do that is slice whatever the food is that you're cooking. Say you're cooking chicken or beef or whatever it is, make sure that you slice it up thin in small, thin pieces and you lay it on the surface of the pan. You're gonna cook much faster because the meat, when it's thick, is gonna just take a lot longer for the heat to penetrate and cook the outside and reach the middle of the meat. So bottom line, guys, just to sum it all up regarding that, if you want to cook and have the food taste good, cook with moderate heat. That way the oil will not become unstable and the food will cook through and through and not become burnt, and it will be consistently cooked. If you want to cook faster, do not jack up the heat. What you want to do there is just keep the heat the same, moderate heat to low heat, but instead slice up the meat into smaller pieces and you're gonna get much shorter cooking times as a result. Another thing about these oils, guys, is that you don't want to buy too many big containers if you're not gonna use them in a fast amount of time, because if you buy them big and they stay on your shelf, for 6 months or a year, there's a good possibility that they're gonna go bad. The shelf life of these cooking oils, because they contain fat, it's natural that they are not going to last forever. So just be mindful. Buy the smaller packages and containers. As you can see here, these are pretty small. They're not too big. I don't have these laying around for too long. A quick sidetrack here on cooking oils, guys. I don't recommend frying with the non-stick. Obviously, if you're new, I don't know how much you know about it, but you can't fry. And I wouldn't recommend frying in general, guys. There's just too much oil that the food is bathing in and absorbing. That's why I like these sprays, because you don't have to use that much. And also with the coconut oil, just resist the temptation to use a lot. Just use maybe 20 to 30 grams. That's going to be plenty, especially if you evenly coat the bottom of the surface of your pan. Hey guys, it's me from the future here, and I wanted to quickly jump back into this video and add one more thing that I have previously spoken about, and that is about the versatility of these non-stick cooking sprays, and that you can also use them for things other than cooking on the stovetop with pots and pans. For example, you can use them to cook and bake foods in the oven. And the way you do that is you basically get yourself one of these aluminum tins, which they basically are a container or a vessel for the foods that you place into the oven. But I usually add one more step to this, and that is that I take aluminum foil, but specifically I use a non-stick heavy-duty aluminum foil. I layer that into the cooking vessel, the tin, and then I spray it down a little bit with some non-stick cooking spray. And I can also reuse the aluminum tin multiple times, because the only thing that gets dirty and that I throw away is the actual non-stick aluminum foil that I put into the vessel. So with that said, guys, hope you got something out of this video, and I will see you in the next one. Be safe out there.